Hi everybody, Dr. Jeremy Pettis. So welcome to this talk I'm calling Type 2 Basics. And yes, we're doing a conference today that's kind of Star Wars themed. So we're talking about Padawans, like basically if you're just starting out in diabetes, what you should learn. But really, I wanted to make this talk about just things that everybody living with type 2 should know and distill it down to kind of the most important things that you need to know to just help live a long and healthy life. So I'm starting with this slide that says diabetes advice, because you tell anybody that you have diabetes, I don't care if it's at a barbecue or an Uber driver, guess what? They got a list of like 300 things that you should be doing, all the different stuff that you need to be eating or not eating, exercise, or did you hear about cinnamon or this, or I had a grandmother that died of this, and it's overwhelming. And you can start to think that you need to do all these things, when really some of these things are more important than others. So I'm going to try to give you, again, kind of the most important things when it comes to type 2 diabetes. 5 quick tips. So guess what? There's going to be 5 of them, and we're going to get into them. And one's not more important than the other. But if you can really honestly take these 5 things on, again, you will, not maybe, you will live a long and healthy life with type 2 diabetes. And guess what? It can actually be almost a blessing, a way of kind of checking in with your health. Maybe the exercise you've been putting off, you get into, getting on some of these medications that help with weight loss. This diagnosis, I've seen it change lives in a positive way. All right, so tip 1, let's get into it. Attack your blood sugars. And I underlined attack here because you really need to be aggressive, potentially even more aggressive than your provider, who sometimes can say, hey, we'll talk about your diabetes next time. You really need to know what your blood sugar numbers are. And if they're not at goal, you need to do something. Maybe it's another medication, maybe it's a change in diet, whatever, but you just can't simply let it go till the next visit, etc. So what should your goal be? Well, our number 1 test that we use in diabetes is called the A1C. Hopefully you know what that is. And in general, we want that to be less than 7, kind of lucky number 7. It really is that easy. So if you're getting your A1C tested and it's 8, 9, or even 7.3, why am I not at goal? Doc, provider, what can I do? What should I change? When should I see you again to get this tested? This is an easy number to know. It's a very common blood test. You should know what your A1C is. And if it's not on 7, you need to plan with your provider, but you need to advocate for yourself to get that number down. So listen up. People always say, what medication should I be on when it comes to diabetes? And there's lots of medications for diabetes, which is a great thing. But really, it becomes kind of this simple. If you have type 2 diabetes, you should be on a combination of these 2 medications. Usually people start with metformin, which is a great pill, but then you should quickly add one of these once-a-week injections like Ozempic or Mounjaro or Trulicity. They're crazy names, I know, but they're all once-a-week medications. Really powerful blood sugar reduction, help people get their A1C down, help people lose weight. Plus one of these pills like Farxiga or Jardiance, once-a-day medications. And I'm, a big fan for being on these medications early, being aggressive, getting your blood sugars down, and then keeping them down rather than letting your A1C creep up and then, doc, give me another 6 months. And then before you know it, it's 2 years, your A1C is 9. Be aggressive. So, what do these medications look like, these injections? Well, you can't open a newspaper, or who opens a newspaper anymore? Or, watch TV without hearing about Ozempic and all the celebrities that are taking it and losing weight. Because guess what? It really does work. It helps people lose weight, blood sugars, etc. We already talked about. Other examples are a medication called Wegovy, Mounjaro. This is just what they look like. So you can take screenshots, you can pause this, you can send this to your provider, talk to them. Hey, I have type 2 diabetes. I heard that maybe I should be on one of these medications. What do you think? And if the answer is no, it's not for you, then ask why. I heard that these are good medicines. Why should I not be on them? Tip 2, we got to talk about diet. And, you can't mention diabetes again without people immediately jumping to, watch what you eat. You ate this, you shouldn't eat that. Well, there's no simple solution to a diet. There's no such thing as a diabetic diet. People, one of the number 1 things they ask me is, what should I eat? Well, it's kind of complicated, but here are some general rules. So when it comes to a diet, all options are available to you. If you want to actually prescribe to, an actual diet, like the Mediterranean diet, if you want to do intermittent fasting, if you want to do low carb, having diabetes, all these are options to you. Sometimes people will say, you have diabetes, you can't fast. You have to eat every, couple hours. And that's completely not true. Same thing with low carb. You absolutely can do it. Getting some help with a dietitian, what that looks like, can be really, really helpful. We have podcasts on a couple of these things. If you haven't listened to our podcast, I have to sheepishly admit that it's awesome. Yes, I'm on a lot of these podcasts, but I really enjoy it because we bring in experts on these different topics and really do deep dives. So go to Spotify or any place that you listen to podcasts and you can see all the episodes. We did one on intermittent fasting with a specialist in that area, and then one on just this topic. What is a diabetes diet? What should I be eating? Getting some more information on that is so key. And bringing in your family. It never works if, husband has diabetes and, wife is doing the cooking and they're just not seeing eye to eye on, what the goals of the family should be. So if you do go see a dietitian, going with the family, can always be very, very helpful. Do this as kind of a team. So low carb-ish, that's what I tend to do because, I'm not very good at counting carbs, but I know what a carb is and I can kind of cut them down. But I'm showing this because low carb doesn't mean low delicious. You can eat some really good stuff and still be kind of low carb. I love In-N-Out hamburgers, love them. But you can get these kind of protein styles. So you still get the In-N-Out burger, but without the bun. That's, a good, super good treat. And honestly, I don't miss the bun that much. Bacon and eggs. Eggs have gotten a horrible rap. We know now that doesn't really increase your cholesterol very much. So they're a great source of protein, no carbs. Same thing with bacon, sausage. It's a much better option in the morning than, breakfast cereal and bagels. And God forbid those giant, Jamba juices that people think are healthy, but that's just a ton of sugar and calories that you can be cutting out. I just like chicken and veggies. It's easy to make. It's, so many different options you can do with it. Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, carrots, whatever, and you can spice it up in different ways. But that's super low carb. It's actually 0 carbs, and that can help you lose weight. This is cauliflower rice, which again, cauliflower rice, boring, right? But we all just use that as a mechanism of delivering sauce to our face anyways. It's not about the rice, it's about how much soy sauce I put on there or whatever. So there's low carb options even for something super carby like rice that you should, give a whirl. Guess what else is low carb? Hard alcohol, specifically bourbon. So a point here, just that in all avenues of your life, you can find something that is low carb. There's actually 0 carbs in hard alcohol. So if you are, drinking, do it in moderation, obviously, but way less calories than just, like a bourbon or like a rum and Diet Coke or something like vodka soda than a margarita or a pina colada, which can have like 500 calories in it. So in all these areas, you can find some things that doesn't necessarily mean you have to suffer from a diet and still enjoy, eating, which we all do. So some take-home diet tips: meet with a dietitian, do it. So your provider always says, do you want to meet with a dietitian? You say, no, I don't want to be kind of browbeaten by somebody. But there's some really good ones out there. And if you meet with somebody that you don't like or you don't click with, meet with somebody else and follow up with them. Number 2, be clear with your goals and make them achievable. Am I here to lose weight? Am I here to save money on my groceries? Am I here to make my blood sugars better? Or all of the above? Am I here because I want to work with my partner on, what to cook at home? Or I want to go to McDonald's, and what are some good options there? I'm still going to do it every once in a while, so help me avoid the Big Mac and maybe pick something else. A good dietitian will actually go over that with you rather than you should never go to McDonald's because, you're going to. The last one, stay within your cultural preferences. I hate it when you go to see somebody and, maybe you're Asian or Hispanic and they say no more rice or no more tortillas. And this is something that's a huge staple of your diet that you grew up with. You just got to find ways to still work within that. Maybe cutting down the rice or the portions or the size and the number of tortillas, etc. But a good dietitian should be sensitive to what, you like to eat and make it kind of work for you. They can go over apps. They can go over kind of how to log your diet. But you don't have to suffer when it comes to a diet. It doesn't mean just, cutting out all the things you like completely. It's about working with somebody to still enjoy what you eat, but do it in kind of a healthy way. Tip 3, get moving. And ever since you had diabetes, people are telling you should exercise more, but guess what? If you never have, really, People have this idea that all of a sudden they need to, run marathons, and they've never maybe even been to a gym or ran at all. But you don't need to do that. Like, you don't have to just get out to, all of a sudden join a gym and do something that you've never done before. There's easier ways to get exercise. And an important thing about exercise is that it does a lot of good things. So people typically think of exercise as, well, it helps you lose weight. And so that's the number one thing here is reach or maintain a healthy weight, which is true. But even if you don't lose weight, if you're exercising, if you're moving, your weight stays the same. It still can do number two, strengthen your bones and muscles. That can make you less prone to injuries, less prone to fractures. It can improve your heart and lung function. That's a huge deal. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of people with diabetes, type 1 and type 2. So improving your heart function, sleeping better. That is another big one. So many people have sleep problems out there. And I guarantee if you started exercising regularly, you could get rid of the Ambien or whatever crap you're taking at night. Not crap. Some people, need these things. But exercise helps a lot with sleep. And then the last one seems like a throwaway comment, feel happier. But I actually think that's probably the most important thing, that people generally just report a better sense of well-being, feeling comfortable in their own skin when they're exercising. So what does exercise mean? You say, okay, well, this isn't for me. I've tried the treadmill. I've tried the gym. I don't feel comfortable there. Well, the official recommendation from the American Diabetes Association is 30 minutes of physical activity 5 days a week. And this doesn't say go to the gym, doesn't say lift weights. This can be walking around your neighborhood for 30 minutes. This can be riding on an exercise bike. Something that you like to do that is sustainable is really the key here. But it's 30 minutes of continuous activity. So if you are walking, just doing that, kind of continuously to get your heart rate up. And it really isn't that big of a commitment. I know it's hard to kind of engage in, but start with maybe, hey, I'm going to go to the mailbox every day, and then increase it to a couple blocks or whatever it might be. But if you can get up to 30 minutes of activity 5 days a week, all those things are going to happen. Blood sugar is better, weight's going to come down, cardiovascular health, etc. So start setting little goals. Maybe I'm not going to jump right to 5 days a week if I'm doing nothing. Maybe I'll start with 1 or 2 or whatever. And if you're already hitting this goal, congratulations. Like, you're doing awesome, and congratulate yourself for it. But making some kind of clear plan for exercise is super, important. And again, be clear. I'm going to start with 1 time a week, then I'm going to go up to 2 by next week, etc. Write it down and make yourself accountable, and do it with a friend or a family member. When we do things together, we tend to kind of stick to it a little bit more when there's some accountability to it. So that's tip 1 through 3. Tip 4, everybody wants to lose weight. And again, there can be so much shame with diabetes that people look at you and say, well, you're overweight. Of course you got diabetes. I have a slide that says this, but I'm going to say it again. Gaining weight does not cause diabetes. You didn't eat yourself into type 2 diabetes. The genes of these conditions run together, so people with type 2 tend to be obese, but one didn't necessarily cause the other. But losing weight can be extremely helpful for all kinds of things, and not least of all, just, again, feeling better, looking better, more confident, etc. So if you're overweight, guess what? You're not alone. If you have type 2 diabetes, there's a very good chance that you're overweight or obese. 9 out of 10 people with type 2 diabetes are in that category, 90%. And again, gaining weight doesn't cause diabetes. Now, when we say overweight and obese, there's actually specific medical definitions for these terms. It's not just, oh, Cindy's overweight and Greg's obese. There's actually, again, there's medical definitions. So here they are. This is based on your BMI, your body mass index, and I'll show you how to calculate it. So starting with the skinny mini on the far left, underweight is if your BMI is less than 18.5. Healthy is usually up to 25. Overweight, once you get above 25, from 25 to 30, you're literally overweight as a medical definition. Between 30 and 40 is obese, and over 40 is severely obese. So the idea is to get as close to the healthy area as you can, less than 25. But if you're starting in the obese area, trying to get down into that overweight category is a good place to start. And I have a picture of my face here because guess what? My BMI is usually 26, something like that, around that area. So we are all struggling to lose weight. As Americans in general, people are overweight, but particularly people with type 2 diabetes. So you want to know what your BMI is? You should look it up. You should know. So it's basically takes into account your height and how much you weigh. Because it's a big difference if you weigh 200 pounds if you're 6'2", or you're 200 pounds or 5'2". Clearly, if you're 5'2", then you probably got some weight to lose. So that's why it takes into account your height and your weight. Just Google BMI calculator. Again, you can always pause this talk and look at these things. And this is the first one that comes up for me, but there's multiple of them. Make sure you click on the kind of standard so it's in feet and inches and not, metric like yards and furlongs or whatever the heck they use over there. So feet and inches, pounds, you hit compute BMI, and your BMI comes up and you can see what category you're in, so you know kind of where you're starting. And as you set a goal, okay, I want to get down to 30. I'm at 32 right now. You can actually see how much weight you need to lose. You can enter the weight that you'd want to be to get there and start making that a goal. When it comes to goals, I'll talk about that, but a realistic goal is about a half a pound a week. Now, that means if you want to lose 10 pounds, that could take 20 weeks. That's about almost 6 months. So people will say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by the end of the month. Guess what? It's not going to happen. You're setting yourself up for failure. So having realistic goals. I mentioned these medications just to show some charts of what they can actually do. This is Ozempic, and the blue is the 1 milligram dose, and kind of yellow is the 2 milligram dose. People after 40 weeks, which is almost a year, lost 12 or 14 pounds. And again, that's a lot of weight. So 14 pounds over 40 weeks, but that's only 0.35 pounds a week. So if you start your diet and you're like, man, I've been on this for, a week or two and I've lost only a pound, that's typical. That's expected. So you got to figure, if I want to lose 10 pounds, do that half a pound a week and commit to it's going to take that long, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure with these kind of like crash diets. Everybody wants to lose weight quickly, but you got to be in it kind of for the long haul. These drugs, they work by making you just feel full quicker. You still get hungry, but when you start eating, you eat half that burrito or half that sandwich, no thanks, I don't need the second half. And people just eat less and they lose weight. So if you're on these medications, use that. You don't have to eat what you used to eat. Mounjaro, just another example showing the different doses of Mounjaro, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 15 milligrams, versus Ozempic, kind of the lower dose. In this study, that the people on Mounjaro lost 25 pounds. It's like 12% of their body weight. Again, about a half a pound a week. But these are game changers. Can you imagine if all of a sudden, you lost 25 pounds? That would be fantastic. So asking your provider, these are drugs that have been around now for years. These are not, like new experimental medications. These have been around. They're effective, generally readily available for people with type 2 diabetes. So the last tip, gone through a lot here. If you're with me so far, you're doing pretty good. The last one is don't forget about these things, blood pressure and cholesterol. They seem kind of like boring, maybe like, I don't want to worry about my blood pressure, cholesterol. When it comes to heart disease, these are the number 1 and 2 things that can prevent, heart issues. And I mentioned that heart disease is the number 1 killer of people with diabetes. So you've got to be aggressive with these and know what your goals are. You should talk about these things at every single doctor or provider appointment you go to. I don't care if it's your diabetes doctor, your general health doctor, maybe you see a kidney doctor. You should be, talking about these and knowing what your goals are. So what are your goals? Well, your blood pressure, we want that to be less than 130 over 80. And if it's consistently higher than that, you can get a cuff to measure it at home. Get that on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. If you're worried that, you get the white coat hypertension when you freak out and you see your provider, or you get nervous, I should say, measure it at home. And if you're seeing numbers like 140, 150, you need to start some medications for that. And there's lots of options for blood pressure medications that are cheap, once a day, generally have minimal or no side effects. So be aggressive with it. Attack it just like you're doing your diabetes. And if you can get this down, then you're going to live, again, a long and healthy life. Same thing with cholesterol. We really look at the LDL. So when you get your lab report, it'll be your total cholesterol, which I don't care so much about, that is made up of your LDL and your HDL. And the LDL, I think of it as standing L for lousy. It's the one we don't want. We want it as low as possible. And here are your goals. If you have diabetes and you don't have any heart disease, we want that less than 70. And if you do have heart disease, you want that less than 55. And it's almost impossible to get to this level without medications. I don't care if you ate grass all day or sawdust, your blood or your cholesterol wouldn't get that low. So it means you probably need to be on something for your blood pressure like a statin, like Lipitor. There's other options. These drugs have gotten bad raps too, but they are so effective, generally don't have side effects, generally very cheap. So make sure you're addressing your cholesterol. It makes me cry when people got their diabetes under control, but their cholesterol's through the roof. So anyways, you got this. Go back and watch this over and over again. Keep a list of these 5 things. Make goals for all of these, and you're gonna do great. Thanks so much.